and we are joined in the studio at the moment with Brian George, and he's going to be talking all about his role as Environmental Health Officer for Housing in Swale. So good evening, Brian, and welcome along to the show.
Good evening, Daniel. Thanks for inviting me along this evening. I'm just going to commence with a sort of a broad brush approach of environmental health and environmental health officers' role at Swale Borough Council. You probably are aware that formerly we were known as public health inspectors, dating back. We've got the grand title of environmental health officer. I work in private sector housing at Swale Borough Council. In this section we deal with complaint work, as in landlord and tenant disputes, looking at properties with regards to disrepair and using the health and hazard rating system and Housing Act legislation. We cover complaint work from members of the public to do with empty properties, drainage, some work on disabled facilities grant, pest control, houses in multiple occupation, energy efficiency matters. If you've probably, some of you seen the programme The Life of Grime, well, that's the section I actually work in, and we don't do that every day, but we cover a lot of the nasties on the environmental health side. The course to become a qualified environmental health officer, it's a 4-year degree course now at a university, leading to a BSc in environmental health. I'll give you some websites to look up the career development. What I'm mainly concerned with tonight, and Daniel's asked me along here, is to look at overview the empty homes and the work that we've been doing here in Swale.
Brian, what is the problem across the country region?
Well, Daniel's invited me here tonight to discuss empty homes, and the Empty Homes Agency estimates that there are nearly 1 million properties currently standing empty. Obviously in Swale the problem's not as large as the big cities. I was recently up in Liverpool and near the Anfield Stadium, and there are literally row after row of empty properties. The areas have become blighted, the properties boarded up, and what have you. But here in Swale, with more of a pepper pot approach to empty properties, in that we haven't got streets of empty properties. We've got properties here and there, as it were. Like I say, there's 1 million. The Empty Homes Agency, it's a registered charity, are doing work, pushing government, putting pressure on local government and indeed the Prime Minister's office to try and bring the problem to a head. But here in Swale, at any given time, we reckon we've got about 350 empty properties on a monthly basis. We receive council tax records we're able to access, and we prioritise our work using a traffic light system, as it were, for green, amber and red, and we target those properties as we see fit, and we've been quite successful. We've joined up with Kent County Council with their No Use Empty programme of bringing properties back into use, and we've actually secured some funding through that innovation.
Why are properties left empty?
Hi Daniel, yeah, there's a number of reasons we've found over the years. These are as follows. Some people abandon the properties. Some people, obviously properties that are for sale can be empty. Some properties are subject to probate, and families are sorting that out after a death in the family. You get properties that are repossessed so they're going through that stage. And some properties where the family's died, it might be the last member of that family, and there's no living relative, and the Treasury solicitor has to get involved, and obviously that money goes to central government. But what we try to do is to the empty properties can attract antisocial behaviour, and that's the reason why we're trying to target empty properties in Swale and get them back into use quickly.
Brian, how are you tackling the problem?
Hi Daniel. Obviously the key to tackling the problem is negotiation, and this is our first port of call is to find the owner of an empty property and negotiate, ask them the question why, and then try and be in a position to help them bring that property back into use. And there are a number of ways to do this. There's legal action we can take, and this could involve serving notices under the Housing Act 2004, carrying out repairs in default, and putting a charge on the property. Now, this charge would enable us to go along the enforced sales route, thereby forcing the sale of the property at an auction. The beauty of this enforced sales procedure is that the council never actually own the property. The property is sold at auction, and the proceeds are given to the owner if they come forward. Another more recent piece of legislation are the empty dwelling management orders, known as EDMOs. These are used where, with negotiation with the owner, if you can't afford to bring the property back into use, we will use public funds, carry out repairs to the property, hopefully find a tenant, and with that tenant paying rent to us, we'll accrue our money through the charge in the rent, and then once our costs have been met, we hand the property back to the owner. So that's sort of the stick approach. But we are quite nice people here at the council as well, and we do offer other sort of goodies, as it were, and we're in a very fortunate position here at Swale to be able to directly purchase some properties, and I think we've bought now about 5 properties, not all at once, but we'd buy one property and sell it on, usually at the auction after negotiation with the owner. We get an independent valuation. I carry out sort of searches and what have you, and we negotiate with the owner on a price, and indeed sell it on. Some people prefer to deal with the council. We're fairly trustworthy folks here at Swale Borough Council, and so we do one at a time and recycle the money. We're also in a good position to offer interest-free loans at the moment, and we do this over a 10-year period. Again, we put a legal charge on the property for the loan, and we're able to offer up to £15,000 on a property to bring it up to the decent home standard, and a further £5,000 for energy efficiency measures. Putting a condensing boiler in, loft insulation, cavity wall insulation, that sort of thing. So there are good things. We're also involved, as I said, with the Kent County Council and their No Use Empty campaign, and we're negotiating at the moment, and we're trying to get on board with it. They run a loan scheme. We haven't signed up to the scheme yet, but they're giving loans out in the east of Kent, in Thanet, in Dover, in Shepway, of loans up to £25,000 per unit, and there's a lot of flat conversions going on, so there's lots of good work going on throughout the county.
Brian, what are all those useful contact details for our listeners?
Okay, if you want to report an empty property, you can email me, briangeorge@swale.gov.uk, that's in lowercase, or a colleague of mine, Sharon Russell, at swale.gov.uk. I'll hand out a couple of telephone numbers. My direct line is 01795 417232, and Sharon's number 01795 417021. Thank you.
Brian, I'd like to thank you very much for coming along this evening.
I've enjoyed it, Daniel. Thank you.
That's Brian George, the Environmental Health Officer for Housing in Swale, here at the Monday Night Community Show.